Hi everyone, Bear from Bear Reads Books. Again, welcome back to my channel, and today something a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about YA fiction. Now, before you instantly switch off, this is not something I normally talk about, but throughout the year I do tend to read a little bit of young adult fiction, but I'm very particular about what I read. I've been burned before when it comes to YA fiction. So we're not talking about the flood of YA fiction that is YA fantasy. I'm not at all a fantasy reader. So if you're thinking we're going to be talking about YA fantasy fiction, then you can go right now. But if you want to listen to something different in regards to YA fiction, hang around. Specifically, I'm going to talk about 4 books from Australian YA fiction authors, and we've got Aussie April coming up soon, and I thought if you've got a hankering for some YA and you want to participate in Aussie April, then what better way to do it is to take a recommendation from me about some great Australian YA fiction. So I've got 4 books here, 2 of which I've read before but on electronic books, so you'll see the image up here, and 2 that I have physical books. Let's start with one that I read all the way back in April last year, and even earlier, March even. And it still remains one of the best things I read in 2020, comparing it to everything. YA, literary fiction, BookTube Prize, Booker Prize. One of the best books for me in 2020 was this Australian YA fiction book, and that is This Is How We Change the Ending. It's a wordy title. This Is How We Change the Ending by Vicky Wakefield. And this was, without doubt, a sensational 5-star read. And the best YA fiction for me is the stuff that anyone, including adults who like any type of book, can pick up and get something from, get some sort of reward or satisfaction from. So for me, who reads so little fantasy, if I was to pick up a YA fantasy book, it could be great, but I wouldn't be recommending it on BookTube or anywhere else because it doesn't cross over into that stuff that makes me passionate about reading. And fantasy is not it. But This Is How We Change the Ending by Vicky Wakefield was and could be enjoyable for adults, young adults, anybody that simply likes reading fiction. It's a real story with really great, well created and well-rounded characters, and a very, very emotional story about living in poverty in the 21st century. So it tells the story of a young man who lives in abject poverty with his sometimes parents, who, and I say sometimes because they're sometimes there, they're sometimes not. They sometimes behave like parents and feed him and clothe him and look after him, and then they sometimes very much do not. And this is where the emotional roller coaster that is this book comes in. You really feel for the passion that this boy has, because he has dreams of what he wants to do. But his dreams, in comparison to my dreams and your dreams, or even my daughter's dreams, who is in the target market for this book, whose dreams are so much bigger than this boy's dreams. And this boy's dream is simply to get out and not for people not to hit him anymore, or to have a meal, or his dreams are, compared to others, so small. But for him, they're almost insurmountable. It really is an amazing book, and I can't recommend it enough. Look it up online, read more about it online. There's plenty around. It's easily accessible. You're easily able to get it from any online bookseller, or maybe even in-person bookseller, I'm not sure. But certainly have a look around. This Is How We Change the Ending by Vicky Wakefield, and it is still one of my best books of 2020. And when I'm focusing on YA fiction, I can't not recommend this to you. It is amazing. Get on it. The other one I wanted to talk about is called Dirt Circus League. And again, another really strange title. This one's released in a week or so, or at the end of March. So depending on when I publish this video, it may already just be out. But it's a wild ride of a book. And now I'm just full disclosure, I was provided an advanced reader's copy from the publisher for this one for an honest review, which I'm now giving, and it is as a first novel attempt, it's great. It doesn't quite cross over into exciting adult reading territory like This Is How We Change the Ending very much does. It is firmly a YA book, this Dirt Circus League, but it's still fun and it still has its absolute merits, and for that I really liked it. It's kind of Mad Max. It's kind of I had a whole bunch of different movies and TV shows that I thought would go well with this book. It's kind of, in an Australian context, it's got Mad Max, Fight Club, it's got Divergent, those kind of things, those kind of themes. You got a bunch of kids in North Queensland that run this betting circle fight club thing that people come from miles around to bet on. But really they embody, they're a group of kids that live off in the jungle by themselves, and they embody this worship of Gaia, the Earth Mother. But there's something not quite right about their little community, and this is where this new character comes in, who is immediately enamored with them. She has these as yet undisclosed powers that we don't really know too much about, and the book doesn't make a great deal about either. You could almost say that you could have written this book without this character having any powers. But because she sees herself as very different and everyone else sees her as very different, she feels an affinity to this group, this Dirt Circus League, this group of young people that live off in the jungle by themselves and worship nature. So she joins them and she goes through an initiation, and there's a whole... But over time, she starts to feel the same way that the reader feels, in that there's something not quite right about this community, and she tries to discover what that is and what the problem is, with a few little hiccups along the way. There are some really obvious and clunky markers, story markers here, but all in all, it's still a great read. It's fun, exciting, and you can instantly see, if you were a young adult, that this would be super exciting. It's kids battling it out, punching each other in the face, and really living by themselves off in the North Queensland rainforest, which to a lot of kids sounds like an exciting lifestyle. To me, it sounds like an exciting lifestyle. Not that I like punching people in the face, but it's really, really good. It is released at the end of March, so if that has already been, then please get on this book. You'll find it readily available by ebook, I think, if you're outside of Australia, or probably in your bookstores in Australia. It is Dirt Circus League by Marie Kimberley. Please get on it. And you'll see by the cover. Cover is amazing. The cover design for this thing is absolutely fantastic. You think a Mad Max, Divergent and Fight Club combo sounds like your thing, then you go for it. But I thought it was really good fun. So that's the second one. The third one, I have these next two in physical books, and the first one is called Future Girl by an author herself, a young person. Future Girl by an author called Asphyxia. And it's I'm not sure what terminology to use here, but it is about a girl who is deaf, and her family wants her to pass as a hearing person. So everything they teach her to do is so the world sees her as a hearing person rather than as a deaf person. So she feels very disjointed from the world around her because she's deaf. And Asphyxia herself, the author, is a deaf person. So the entire book is very kinesthetic, is very tactile, and the entire book itself has lots of drawings in it, and lots of illustrations and tables and things like that. It's very, very interesting. I will read a little bit off the back if you like. It says, Piper's mum wants it to be normal to pass his hearing and get a good job, but Piper has more important things to worry about, such as how to get food. So again, another tale of youth poverty in Australia. When she meets a boy called Marley, Marley is Marley is a child of a deaf adult, and Marley is learning sign language so that he can better communicate with his own parents, with his own parent. So he very much sees deaf people as communicating in whatever way is best for them, which is a complete change of future for Future Girl of the story, because she's always had her deafness hidden away or changed so that she looks like so that she behaves like a hearing person. So it's an awakening almost for the main character as she realises that I don't have to hide my deafness. I can learn Australian Sign Language and I can communicate with other deaf people, but I can also communicate with hearing people. So it's very much a journey of discovery for the main character. It's great, and if you like these very visual type books with lots of illustrations, and I know Amy Kaufman and Jay Christoph do a lot of these where you've done letters and emails and illustrations. If you like that sort of stuff, I didn't like the fantasy aspect of the Jay Kaufman stuff, but I liked the artistic expression that those books had embodied, but I just didn't like the fantasy aspect. Whereas this doesn't have the fantasy aspect, it's very real to life, and it still has all of that artistic flair in the book as well. Fantastic. Again, it doesn't particularly cross over into the adult realm 100% like the other one, the first book I spoke about, but it is still a very engaging read, and it's saying something incredibly important about how we teach, about how we engage with people outside of our own experience. So people who are different, people who have a point of difference, and how we express ourselves. And finally, a brand new book on the market called The Boy from the Mish by Gary Lonesborough. Now, the Mish stands for the mission, and in an outside of Australia context, I guess, if you had to describe what a mission is, it used to be a church-run township where Aboriginal people would live, and they were forced to live there. Aboriginal people had to live on the mission. I guess in an American context, you would call it a reservation, so Native American reservation. So these missions still exist. Not that they're forced to live there, but these missions historically still exist. And this is called Boy from the Mish, which looks at life for young boys living in a mission setting, which is very much in regional Australia, away from the cities, very, very isolated for services and help and schools and hospitals and all that sort of stuff. So incredibly isolated. So community is everything. But when community isn't there to support you, either through your family is broken down and left, or through some other problems, then how do groups of young men, boys, women, girls, how do they grow and develop meaningfully when they don't have the support around them? And that's kind of what this book looks at. I'll read the back. It says, it's a hot summer and life's going all right for 17-year-old Jackson and his family on the Mish. It's almost Christmas, school's out, he's hanging out with mates, teasing the tourists and avoiding the racists in town. Just like every year, Jackson's auntie and annoying little cousins visit from the city, but this time Thomas, with his mysterious and troubled past, comes with them. So there's some disruption as Thomas arrives, and he's got his own bunch of problems that he's bringing to the Mish that these boys have never encountered before. But it's a story about friendship and about family and about overcoming adversity. And I think these are the types of books, like the first one I mentioned, This Is How We Change the Ending. It's these types of books that can be really rewarding to adults. I know the artistic stuff in Future Girl might turn people off, and I know that the sci-fi fantasy stuff that is kind of part of Dirt Circus League might turn people off, but these really true to life stories like The Boy from the Mish and This Is How We Changed the Ending, these are the ones that can cross over into adults really getting behind them. And this one especially, The Boy from the Mish, is great, and I can highly recommend it. So there's four YA fictions, all reasonably new. The oldest one is the first one I spoke about, which came out early last year. The rest are all very new. Dirt Circus League released in the next week, and the other two have been released in the last few months. Get on them. If you're looking for something different for Aussie April, maybe one of these. I don't often talk about YA fiction, but it's still something that I occasionally pick up and read, so you're going to hear me talk about it at some stage. But that's it. Enjoy Aussie April coming up. I can't wait. Wherever you may be, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.